The eviction notice wasn't taped to a door. It was slammed into his hands, and the HOA Karen smiled like she had already won. Ethan Cole had just finished painting the front porch of the small home he inherited from his late father when the HOA president, Linda Hawthorne, marched up with 2 board members behind her like backup dancers. She held a folder like it was a weapon. "You're in violation," she said, loud enough for neighbors to hear. "And we're starting eviction proceedings." Ethan froze. This wasn't an apartment. This was his family's house, paid in full. Linda didn't care. She claimed his fence was unauthorized, his mailbox was non-compliant, and his grass was 2 inches too high. It sounded ridiculous until Ethan saw the legal letterhead. Linda leaned closer, whispering with fake sweetness, "You should have never challenged the HOA. Now you'll learn." But Ethan wasn't just scared. He was confused. Because his father had warned him about Linda years ago. He had said she didn't just enforce rules, she used them to control people. Ethan decided he wouldn't panic. He would fight back. And he would expose the real reason Linda wanted him out, because something about this eviction felt personal. And planned. Ethan spent the entire night reading HOA bylaws like they were survival instructions. Every line felt like a trap designed for normal people to fail. Linda had highlighted violations with bright red ink, almost proudly. But the more Ethan read, the more he realized something terrifying. She wasn't guessing. She was targeting. The next morning, he went door to door. Some neighbors refused to open. Others spoke in whispers like the HOA could hear through walls. One elderly man finally admitted, "She's done this before. People just leave. Because fighting costs too much." Ethan's stomach tightened. That's when he met Maria, a single mom across the street. She looked tired, but honest. "My brother was threatened last year," she said. Linda said she'd ruin him with fines. He moved out in 2 weeks. Ethan asked the question that haunted him, "Why me?" Maria hesitated. Then she pointed toward the empty lot behind Ethan's backyard. "Because that land. It's valuable. And Linda wants it." Ethan turned, staring at the trees like they were hiding secrets. His father had never sold that land. It was part of the property line, passed down for decades. Maria lowered her voice. "Rumor is she has a developer friend. If you're gone, she can claim the land is abandoned or force a sale." Ethan's hands shook, not from fear, but anger. This wasn't about grass height. It was about greed. And if Ethan didn't stop her now, he'd be the next empty house on the street. Ethan hired a lawyer, but Linda moved faster than anyone expected. Within days, she sent another letter, this time claiming Ethan had illegal occupants. It was absurd. He lived alone. Yet she attached blurry photos taken at night, showing shadows through his windows like evidence from a cheap thriller. The HOA also started harassing him in public. Board members walked past his home with clipboards, taking pictures like paparazzi. Linda even posted on the community board, "Safety alert, unauthorized residents reported." The comments were cruel. People who barely knew Ethan acted like he was a threat, but Ethan didn't break. He started recording everything. He installed cameras. He saved every letter. He documented the dates, the times, the fines. And then he found something that made his blood run cold. Linda had filed the eviction under a name that wasn't even hers. It was a shell company. His lawyer confirmed it. Linda wasn't just HOA president. She was using a private entity to legally pressure homeowners into selling. Still, Ethan needed proof strong enough for court. Not rumors. Not feelings. Hard evidence. That's when Maria slipped him an envelope late one evening. "I shouldn't do this," she whispered. "But I'm tired of being scared." Inside was a copy of an email thread, Linda negotiating with a developer. The subject line said it all: eviction timeline, Cole property. Ethan stared at it like it was fire. Linda had written, "Once he's removed, the lot becomes negotiable." Ethan swallowed. The case wasn't just HOA drama anymore. It was a planned takeover, and court was coming fast. The courthouse felt colder than winter. Ethan walked in wearing his best suit, but his heart still pounded like he was walking into a storm. Across the room, Linda sat with her attorney, perfectly styled, smiling as if this was a social event. She even waved at Ethan like they were friends. When the judge entered, Linda's smile grew wider. She expected an easy win. Her lawyer began confidently, listing violations, fines, and community safety concerns. Linda nodded dramatically, acting like a victim of Ethan's recklessness. Then Ethan's lawyer stood up. Calm. Prepared. Your Honor, she said, this is not an eviction case. This is an attempted property theft disguised as HOA enforcement. Linda's face twitched for the first time. Ethan's lawyer presented the timeline: sudden fines, escalating threats, fabricated claims of illegal occupants. Then she revealed the photos, zoomed in and enhanced. The shadows were nothing but curtains moving from a fan. The courtroom murmured. Linda tried to interrupt. The judge raised a hand. You will wait your turn. Then came the email thread. Ethan's lawyer held it up like a final card. This is a negotiation between the HOA president and a developer, discussing eviction timelines. Linda's attorney jumped up. Objection unverified. But the judge leaned forward. Is this your email, Ms. Hawthorne? Linda's lips parted. But no sound came out. Her confidence cracked like glass, and then the judge said words Linda never expected to hear. Explain yourself. Right now, Linda finally spoke, but her voice was thinner than before. That email. It's taken out of context, she insisted. I was only exploring community improvements. The judge didn't blink. Community improvements that begin with removing a homeowner from his paid-off property? Linda's attorney tried to rescue her, spinning the story into standard HOA procedure. But the judge kept asking questions, sharp, direct, impossible to dodge. Ethan watched, stunned. This wasn't the usual powerless homeowner situation. The judge wasn't impressed by fancy words or HOA arrogance. She was reading the case like a person who had seen manipulation before. Then Ethan's lawyer dropped the final piece: the shell company. She showed documents proving Linda filed the eviction through a private entity linked to the developer's firm. The courtroom went silent, like everyone had stopped breathing. Linda's face went pale. That's not, she started. The judge cut her off. Ms. Hawthorne, you have presented misleading claims, harassed a homeowner, and attempted to weaponize legal procedures for personal gain. Linda looked around, searching for support. But the neighbors she brought as witnesses wouldn't even meet her eyes anymore. Then the judge turned to Ethan. Mr. Cole, I want you to understand something clearly. You are not being evicted today. Ethan's shoulders loosened, almost collapsing with relief. But the judge wasn't finished. Her tone became colder. Now, we need to address what Ms. Hawthorne has done. Linda swallowed hard, and for the first time, the powerful HOA Karen looked truly afraid, because the judge was about to shut her down completely. The judge ordered a full dismissal of the eviction case. But she didn't stop there. She demanded the HOA's records, financial statements, and violation logs for the past 3 years. Linda's attorney protested. The judge overruled it instantly. HOA authority is not a crown, the judge said. It is a responsibility. Linda's eyes darted around the courtroom like she was trapped. Ethan realized she wasn't just losing a case, she was losing control. The kind of control she had built through fear, silence, and paperwork. Then the judge addressed the community directly. If any homeowner has experienced similar harassment, I advise you to seek legal counsel. This court will not tolerate abuse disguised as enforcement. Maria, sitting behind Ethan, quietly wiped her eyes. The judge then turned back to Linda. Ms. Hawthorne, your actions may fall under fraud and misconduct. I am referring this matter for further investigation. Linda's jaw trembled. She tried to speak, but her voice failed again. Outside the courtroom, reporters weren't waiting. This wasn't a celebrity trial. But it was something bigger, justice for normal people. Neighbors gathered in the hallway, whispering like a spell had broken. Some looked ashamed. Some looked angry. A few looked relieved. Ethan stepped outside into daylight, breathing like he had been underwater for months. Maria walked beside him and said softly, "You did what no one else could." But Ethan wasn't celebrating yet, because Linda wasn't the kind of person who accepted defeat quietly, and as Ethan looked back, he saw her staring at him, cold, furious, promising revenge without words. 2 weeks later, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. But this time, Linda didn't sit at the front like a queen. She sat alone, cornered by her own paperwork. The investigation had begun. The developer backed away. And neighbors who once stayed silent finally spoke. One by one, homeowners stood up and described years of intimidation, unfair fines, threats, selective enforcement, and pressure to sell. The room felt like a dam breaking. Then came the final twist. The judge from Ethan's case wasn't just any judge, she owned a vacation property in the same HOA community under a trust name. Linda had unknowingly targeted a homeowner whose case landed in front of someone who had already been watching the HOA's behavior quietly. That was why the judge had asked such precise questions. That was why she demanded records immediately. She wasn't only protecting Ethan, she was exposing the whole system. Linda's resignation was accepted on the spot. The board voted to audit everything. Ethan's fines were erased, and his property line was officially confirmed. Ethan stood outside his home that evening, watching the sun hit the trees behind his backyard, the land his father protected. Maria smiled and said, "She tried to evict the wrong man." Ethan replied softly, "No, she tried to control the wrong community." And that was the final twist in this unbelievable HOA story. If you love the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts. It really helps this channel grow.